This video is on the West Point Bridge Designer and using special tools to identify the parts that could be changed in your bridge. On your program there's a little button here on the top right that will bring out a chart. On this chart there are two columns that we're going to look at that will help us identify the pieces and whether they could be smaller or changed in some way. The first is the compression force column, and those pieces are the ones that are red color on your testing screen. The other is the tension force column, the pieces that are blue on your testing screen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sort the compression force column from greatest to least. So the numbers represent how close the pieces are to breaking. So anything that is above 1.00 is going to break. Anything less than 1.00 is stable. So what I'm looking for are the pieces that are the furthest away from 1.00 as possible. Now if it says 0, and some of these pieces here have 0.00, there is no force acting on that piece for that particular column. So like this piece right here, there is no pulling, but there's a little bit of pushing going on. So what I'm looking for is pieces that are less than 0.8. I'm going to highlight those. So if both columns have a number less than 0.8, then those are the ones I'm going to try to change. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to work for me. They might break, but they're a good candidate to try to alter. So I'm going to select all of these, and notice that there are zeros or very low numbers in this other column. Those pieces should be able to be smaller. So I'm going to go up, I'll change the piece, make it one size smaller, and I'm going to test it. And something broke on here because my status is red. So once I test it, I go and look at these numbers, and the numbers would have went up to some degree. And I have two pieces here that broke, so they went over 1.0. So I can make those bigger and then retest the bridge, see if it works. Those two are still too small, so I make them a size bigger, test it, and now my bridge works. So what I do is I continue to select these pieces that are less than 0.8 and make those smaller, seeing which ones work and which ones don't. This time all those pieces that I made smaller are now working and my bridge holds up. Notice all the colors are starting to get very dark, which is a good thing, because as these numbers approach 1.0, the colors on the testing screen get darker. Now if we go down and we look at the rest of these pieces, these are the ones that are getting pulled and not pushed. So this number in this column is greater than this one. We notice there's some pieces here that we could change as well. These numbers here are all less than 0.8. These numbers over here are less than 0.8. So those are ones I can try to make smaller. So I can go in and make those pieces smaller and test it. And so I keep on doing those same things as I'm working on the size. So for your first few bridges, you'll want to use this chart for this sort of situation. Now as you work on other bridges, they're going to require you to change the metal. So I can use this chart to tell how these numbers change and what I can make smaller by taking all the pieces, for example, and I'm going to change the kind of metal I'm using. Now look at the numbers on the chart for some of these pieces. Okay, some of them are very high, they're 0.8 and greater. Now when I change the kind of metal, that's going to make them stronger. So what's going to happen is those pieces are going to be reinforced with a stronger material, and the numbers are going to go down. The price is going to go up because it costs more to use a stronger material, but the numbers are going to go down, which is a good thing because then we can make the pieces even smaller, because a smaller piece usually is going to mean a lesser price for our overall price for the bridge. So now I can go and make some of those pieces smaller, and since I changed them all to a stronger metal, I'm going to change them all to a smaller size. Now the bridge broke, so I'm going to go back, find the pieces that broke, these two, and I'm going to make them larger. It still broke by a little bit. Okay, so now I got the bridge to work, so I could still change some of these pieces. But I can just select the ones that are less than 0.8. Now, by under no means do you need to change all the pieces to the same metal like I did. I just did that for an example. You might have some being maybe the high strength steel. You might have some being the carbon steel still. Just depends. We're trying to get these numbers as close to 1.0 as we can without going over. So that's the key to using this chart, is to look at the numbers to try to get them as close to 1.0 as possible by changing the size and by changing the metal for some of these bridges.